All right, welcome back. It is 6:30 and we're going to take a look at what's on the headlines in terms of our local dailies, both the Standard and the Daily Nation, to give you an overview of some of the interesting stories that might catch your attention and give you a reason to buy the local dailies. Before I do that, our panel this morning, sitting closer to me, is communication strategist Mark Bichachi, and on my far end, I have Honorable Yusuf Hassan, who is a member of Parliament from Kamkunji. Gentlemen, it's so good to have you this morning. Thank you again for your time and thank you for being on KTN News. So on the local headlines, more so the Senate this morning, we're going with two big stories. Three, to be specific. The focus shifts to Keter over the power case that we saw over the weekend. We saw Kenya Power managers being arrested, but there's also another interesting story. There you go, all the way at the bath. Allowance and airtime to be taxed. This is meals, airtime, car, and even house allowance is something that Henry Rotich and his team are looking to tax. And yet another interesting story for terms politics. Raila dares Wetangula to formally leave NASA, and he's telling him to make it legal. So let's start with the very first story, which is on page 4. We saw the arrest, as I earlier mentioned, of key power managers at the Kenya Power Corporation. And a lot of people have raised questions on the aspect of how it was done. Mark, as a communication strategist, how would you rate in terms of the communication and the arrest that was made towards the Kenya Power managers?
First and foremost, the only term to describe that kind of thing is a purge. There was a total purge of the top leadership of Kenya Power, which is an important message because to the mind of many Kenyans, if there's a place where you domicile years of impunity, years of mismanagement, and years of misusing the trust of the public, then you have to mention Kenya Power as top of the list. And it was necessary for them, if you look at the cases, it was necessary for the DPP to arrest as many people as he did, because you look at the transformers scandal, for example. A transformer is a bunch of wires. How you get a bunch of wires wrong is quite interesting to me. It is hard to miss a bunch of wires. You know, in physics, it was 100 wires this side, 50 wires this side. That's a step-down transformer. But suddenly, a Form 2 student can make a transformer, but Kenya Power can't get it right. And then the funny thing is they went ahead and paid full fees after they themselves had registered that there was something wrong with these transformers, clearly showing that there was someone who had interest in these transformers. Then the second issue, there's almost 460 million that was given out for casual laborers without a trace of what these casual laborers did, which is double jeopardy because, number one, that means there was 460 million worth of jobs for young people that was never given. So the DPP had no choice in terms of arresting all the way from the HR manager to the procurement manager to the CEO, because all of these people were involved. And we know the nature of politics in this country is it does not happen by one person. It's always a web of people. So the message to Kenyans is there is a purge, and the purge will catch you even after you leave office. Honorable
Yusuf, what did you think when you saw the arrest being made, them coming to their homes at midnight and so forth?
Well, I mean, I think it clearly sent a signal that this particular administration, and particularly the Director of Public Prosecutions, is serious in executing his work.
Right.
We haven't seen this kind of energy and determination to deal with issues like that. And for KPLC, there has been an outcry, a public outcry for a long time that things were not going very well. And surprisingly, the authorities who are oversighting this particular company absolutely did nothing. And I think it shows how powerful now the normal media, the traditional medium, did not do much of this story, did not push much of this story. This story was mainly broken by the social media.
Right.
And it shows the power of the social media in becoming a voice for some of the problems that we face. And I think this is a job well done.
All right. There's this aspect, Honorable Yusuf, that I really want to get your thoughts on. Member of Parliament Nelson Kuet said, and I quote, "What happened to presumption of innocence? This government is punishing innocent people purely. That's because of 2022. That's in regards to the arrests that were made. Do you agree that this arrest that we're seeing is just people picking on individuals ahead of the next year's election?
No, I don't. I think you can... This is the problem with Kenya. the buck does not stop with the person responsible for that particular problem. And to actually give this particular campaign against corruption a political bent is rather dangerous and unfortunate. You know, it is the courts that, if these people are innocent, we have a judicial system. They're going to face our judges, and they would make a decision based on the evidence that will be presented by the prosecution. So why start crying wolf now at this particular stage when the case has just started?
Zinzi, on that one, my question to that honorable member of the House is a very simple question. Do we want a tribal balanced arrests now? Now, if the police arrest a Kikuyu thief, they must also arrest a Kalenjin thief. If they arrest a Luo thief, they must also arrest a Somali thief. Are we crazy? If they did the crime, let them be arrested. You cannot balance crime. Now, should we go into the prisons and find out what is the tribal balance in our prisons?
Right.
The fact of the matter is you committed a crime. Let's not act as if we're primary school children who want to go to the headmaster's office and say, no, I didn't make noise alone, Zinzi made noise too. That is childishness. The reality of the matter is, if cookies are missing, the person whose hand was caught in the cookie jar is the one we punish. That's how it is. So we cannot say that a criminal who's been arrested for a clear criminal act that is visible even to the bare looking of, surface looking of things, then we want no one to be arrested. It is not the DPP's fault that whoever was there comes from a certain community. And the president was very clear on this. Let's stop tribalizing this. And I'd like to ask the Kalenjin community, the Luo community, the Kikuyu community, which of those people, when they stole, built for you a road, built for you a school? What is this we're being told that we are being victimized for? What? When lawyers are arrested, do I feel the pinch in my house? You know, this is the kind of madness that needs to stop in this country.
All right, Mark, just on the same note, if there's something else that has also pinched people the wrong way with this arrest, is what the CS had said. He likened the arrest to the plane crash that killed the entire Zambian national soccer team back in 1993. Now, that has struck people the wrong way. In terms of communication, Mark, you being the strategist in this regards, what did you think of that comment? For an entire CS to liken an arrest on economic crimes to a plane crash?
No, I think the CS was totally misadvised and was totally out of order in his comments. And there's another comment that he made, that he wishes he was the sacrificial lamb.
Yeah, and we're coming to that.
But the truth of the matter is this, that his communication was quite dangerous, because it was as if he turned these people into the victims, and they're not victims by any stretch of the imagination. Even if, let's say, they're proven to be innocent in terms of the criminality of their fact, they are not innocent in terms of their incompetence on the job. You see, the reality of the matter is this. If you hire a watchman to keep your things safe and you find your things stolen, with or without his help, he has already failed at his job. And the fact of the matter is that these individuals were at the helm when we procured faulty transformers, when we hired people who never worked. They were at the helm. So he cannot be seen to stand and defend their mediocrity. It does not augur well with the fight against corruption, because we need to understand that the fight against corruption has two sides. There is criminal responsibility and there is positional responsibility, in the sense that if you are the one who is in charge and during your tenure something went wrong, then you would be held to account. If I said something wrong on your show, your boss would summon me and you. You did not say anything. So the reality of the matter is, Keter cannot come out to seem to defend people who were at the helm when mediocrity and impunity and corruption happened, and seem to defend them and equate them to heroes of a nation.
Honorable Yusuf, that aspect of CS saying that there should have been a sacrificial lamb instead of innocent people also being arrested, that has also asked people a lot. It raises a lot of questions. Does he know something about this Kenya Power scandal that we probably shouldn't know, hence why he should also be investigated?
No, I wouldn't. I haven't actually seen the CS's statement, in a complete statement. But from what I get, maybe it was unfortunate the way he said it. But what I thought he meant was that there was such expertise and knowledge among those people, however corrupt or however serious the accusations may be against them, that their departure leaves the Kenya Power and Light KPLC without the necessary expertise to continue to operate. Right. I think that's how I understood it. But nevertheless, as we've had, is that even the CS is responsible. He is the oversight officer of this particular company. And all these years, all these issues that have been raised against KPLC, he did not do anything at all until the Director of Public Prosecutions came in to do something about it. So I think even when you look at the health portfolio, the CS must take some responsibility. In any government ministry, the head of that body is the cabinet secretary, and followed by the principal secretary. So they should take full responsibility as well for some of the things that happens in their ministries, not just the people below them.
Honorable Yusuf, what do you think that responsibility, that aspect of the CSs and the PSs taking responsibility within their ministry, how does that look like? Like you said, a lot of these things, be it the Kenya Power or be it fertilizer within the agriculture sector, what we are seeing with the sugar scandal, that's under health as well. What do you think, what responsibility, when we say responsibility, what is that action that we need to see from their top bosses, the CS and the PS that you said?
Well, man, if you're in charge of a ministry, of any institutions for that matter, you must be alert to what is happening there. And if things are going wrong, you're expected to step in and take corrective action before it gets out of control.
Right.
This is what we expect of a functioning organization. So I think this particular case would be a wake-up call for many of the cabinet secretaries and principal secretaries to tell them that, in fact, you can't just go on like this. You must be able to supervise and oversight your ministries in such a way we just don't have to wait until things go wrong. Lots of money is lost, the reputation of the government is damaged, and so on.
All right, now the other story that is complementing what we are just talking about here in the newsroom is on page 5, where juniors are set to testify against their bosses. Mark, when you have a junior who's going to come and testify about their bosses on matters of economic crime, do you think that would actually strengthen the court cases? Because speaking from an honest perspective, when you have a junior who's testifying against their bosses, that will not be probably the right way for you to sit.
No, actually, it's the right way because it is the juniors who see all these things happen. If you want to catch Honorable Yusuf here in anything, ask his watchman, his cleaning lady, and his PA. They
but
know
their
everything.
job is at stake. My job will be at stake.
No, absolutely not. You see, this is why we need witness protection in this country. That you can, and that's why you need to be able to give evidence and not have either career consequences or personal consequences to your person or to your family based on that particular testimony. The reality of the matter is this: that number one, and I'll use Qatar again as an example. You cannot face the nation and say you miss people on whose watch 4 billion shillings was lost. Okay? That does not make sense, because the juniors who are there are sitting down and they're saying, because they're equally competent, they're saying, if I was head of procurement, this would not have happened. And the person who can give the best testimony is the person who understands the systems, the timelines, and is a material witness to the fact of what was delivered or what was procured being erroneous. So you do need these junior people to testify. But number two, and this is the most critical message, if you have the junior staff testifying against senior staff, then it means that when they ascend to that position, they will have the reverential fear of understanding that whatever I do has consequences. So it is important, because corruption in this country is not an individual thing, it is a cultural thing. And if it's a cultural thing, you need to involve everyone in that thing. You need to involve those who are coming up the ranks to understand that corruption has consequences, and you need those people who participated in corruption to face the full brunt of the law. That's how it must work.
All right, now there's one more story that I need us to look at. National Treasury Cabinet Secretary Henry Rotich has found another place to pinch a little bit of extra money from your pocket. First of all, with the aspect of mobile transfer that we saw that the government could be taking about 12.7%, now they're looking at tax pay, or rather getting more taxes from meals, airtime, car and house allowance. Here's the thing. Let me just read for you to give you an overview. KRA will aggressively come after employees' benefits, and the net result is that you will pay taxes on meals, airtime, cars, as well as house allowance that you may receive from your employer. And this, if it's effected, it will start officially on August 1st, 2018. Honorable Yusuf, is this just the government being stingy? First of all, here they are, having to tax mobile transfer, an aspect that is used by everyone, including Mama Bonga, and not just at any percentage, 12%. Then now you have a place where probably the middle class of Kenya really look up towards: car and house allowance, airtime. I've seen the fact that they will also be taxing issues of juice, cigarettes, as well as beer and bottled water. Is the government just being stingy, or do they genuinely want to look for other avenues to sort of raise tax and finances within Kenya?
Well, I think stingy will not probably be the right word, because we do need money, more money, to develop our country. And taxation is one way of collecting money that would be used for economic development and infrastructure projects. But I'll say that I don't have any problem whatsoever in taxing things like alcohol, cigarettes, even bottled water, because these are luxuries. In fact, they're not essentials in your life. You can do without cigarette, you can do without alcohol, and you can do without bottled water to a certain extent. But I think that there is a danger to squeeze the poor people of our country so much,
right,
that they feel the pinch, given the fact that, in fact, we are coming out of an economic downturn. So I think the government should be careful about not pushing too hard the poor person. But I absolutely have no problem in expanding our tax collection abilities. There are a lot of wealthy people that are not taxed.
That's the thing.
Very well.
They're pinching the wrong part of it.
Yes, exactly. So airtime, mobile transfers, I'm not particularly in favor of taxing them. But by any means, the ministry and the government should look for other areas, because a very small percentage of our wealthy people pay their taxes. For example, a lot of landlords do not pay their taxes. They evade. And I think the government should tighten, and particularly the Kenya Revenue Authority should carry out a very effective campaign to make sure that we get money from those areas.
Mark, your thoughts on this, because as Kenyans, we're living in very interesting times where we're seeing millions and billions of our taxpayer money being lost in white elephant projects and scandals left, right, and center. Then we're being told, listen, your mobile transfer, your airtime, your car and house allowance, we are also looking to get a little bit of what you have. Kenyans are frustrated a lot.
Well, there's two things. Number one, we definitely do need the revenue. Number two, Kenyans definitely do need the lesson, because it is us who sustain corrupt leaders in power. It is us who vote for them. You know, if you go to counties like Kiambu, where they're having serious buyer's remorse, they're the ones who showed up by the hundreds of thousands to vote for these people. So you need to realize that if you're going to support corrupt politicians, then you're going to pay for it, because what they corrupt is your taxes anyway. And that's something that Kenyans need to learn. It's just the way the cookie crumbles. When you are standing in a line to receive 500 shillings from a politician, guess what? It's payback time, baby. You know, it's the baby has come back home to roost. That's how it is. And you can't run away from that fact. But at the same time, I agree. Honorable Yusuf says that we need to, instead of taxing the poor, we need to expand our tax bracket. And the landlords is a good example, because in a city like Nairobi, nearly everyone pays rent. And if everyone pays rent, you don't need to tax their house allowance. You need to find the landlord, because the landlord, number one, landlords in this country are super schemers. So you pay 2 months deposit, 1 month rent, and what else? Utility fees and all of these things. And then when you're moving out of the house, they act like you literally broke their house and your deposit is gone. So these guys are sitting on incredible amounts of money, and let's not forget how many times they auction Kenyans. So the reality of the matter is also that a lot of our corrupt money is put into malls and buildings all over this country. So we need to be able to get the taxes out of that place, because that's most likely how we are able to recover a lot more money.
Speaking of payback, page 9 of the Standard newspaper this morning, Raila Odinga tells Wetangula, I dare you to put your money where your mouth is. You're saying that NASA is out, then legally come out of the party. Is this a frustrated Moses Wetangula that we're seeing?
Red Sun sang a song asking who's the chicken now. So these guys are playing the game of chicken to see who will duck first. And let me tell you the truth, Raila is not going to duck, because ODM has majority of the NASA seats in parliament.
Right.
Wetangula is funny because he wanted to be the leader of majority in Senate when the majority is one. He's the only one there. He did not even secure votes enough in his own county for NASA. So this is, Wetangula is behaving like a spoiled child. And it will be to NASA's advantage that Wetangula is dropped, because I can tell you, if today there was a race between Raila Odinga and Moses Wetangula, in Moses Wetangula's village, Raila Odinga will win. That's how it is.
And Honorable Yusuf, we've seen them also saying, ODM came out and said, as for Kenya, if you want to legally leave our seats there in the National Assembly as well as in the Senate, relinquish all your seats under the ODM ticket. How does that look like? Explain to a normal Kenyan, is it possible legally for them as Ford to leave ODM and yes, relinquish seats? But then again, Kenyans also voted for that member of parliament under the ODM ticket. Just help us understand that.
No, I think what they mean must be the fact that ODM was, as the majority party in the opposition, was generous enough to its minority parties, its coalition partners. And to a certain extent, because of ODM's numerical numbers in parliament, they were able to get more representation in parliament and both in Senate. So what they are saying is that if you are going to leave us, you must also know that you would leave those positions that you got because of the combined strength.
Right.
And I think that is what they're saying, and that is the truth. Because if you, for example, in the Senate, the majority party is ODM, and they were generous enough to give the position of minority leader to a partner party in this particular case. So if that relationship now frays and they part ways, then obviously they would demand that position should go to an ODM person.
All right, Mark, your thoughts on that aspect of Ford Kenya being told, you know what, leave, but also leave our seats.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, you know, a lot of Ford Kenya MPs were given positions in the various House committees and things like that. So definitely they do owe a big debt to ODM. Let's understand that ODM has been the bigger brother to all of these smaller parties for a long time. And they've become great because they've stood on the shoulders of giants. The problem with Wetangula's ego is he's forgotten that it's someone else's shoulder and he's living on borrowed time. His popularity, even in Western Kenya, where he assumes himself to be a kingpin, is not that big. It is not that substantive. And therefore, the best thing for him to do, actually, was to fall in line and follow the NASA brigade. And if you want to fall out nearer to the election, because that might be useful to you. But at this point, you might be frustrated in Senate. You might be frustrated in Parliament. And the worst part is that you've got so few MPs in Parliament that your voice will literally disappear and be drowned out under the voice of ODM. It is a useless fight. Wisdom dictates that you pick your fights. My friend, this is a 2-year-old boy challenging Mike Tyson to a boxing match. It just cannot work.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, as we're taking a quick commercial break, let me just highlight for you the Daily Nation. Of course, they're going with this big story of how 1.5 billion Kenyan shillings landlords loot was shared. So about 24 accounts have had to be frozen, and about 260 million Kenyan shillings was withdrawn in suspicious transactions. But then another big story that will probably catch your attention on the back page, given we know how strikes happen in Kenya, Sosion is threatening to call strike over teachers' appraisals. Why? Apparently there was an audit, or rather an audit at tutors that was supposed to be conducted by TSC, but the NAT Secretary General says that has opposed the idea, and then since the inception, saying it's quite demotivating for him and his team. Could we be seeing another strike from TSC? Make sure you grab a copy of your local dailies this morning. For our KTN home viewers, this is where we'd like to say goodbye. But for KTN news viewers, we're coming right back with Newsroom. Some of the three big stories we're looking to highlight. One is definitely Obama's visit to Kenya, his 5th visit, this time around as a private citizen. Then he went to South Africa. The aspect of journalists leaving the newsroom for politics. A lot more with my team this morning. We'll be right back after this quick commercial break.
This is KTN News.